God. Going too fast. I'm taking 3.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh, no.
Son of a bitch.
You get your 2?
Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course, and today we are going to take a look at a battle on Neighbors. And you can see I am in the Dunkerque. The love I have for this ship just continues. This is a great battleship. But anyway, you can see I'm in division today with Warhawk and Jolly. Warhawk being in the Arizona, Jolly being in the Fuso, and then myself, of course, in the Dunkerque. On Neighbors. So, not 100% sure where we're going to go, but we do have a pretty powerful division here of battleships. Now, obviously, I'm the fastest of these battleships. However, the Fuso definitely has the range to still keep up with me, and the Arizona might be a little slow to get into the fight, but she still has quite a punch to pack once she gets there. So, yeah, we've got a pretty good little division going on here. Anyway, we do decide to head on out over here towards the south of the map, I guess, southwest of the map, right into these 3 islands where the sea cap zone would normally be. This is in hopes of outflanking the enemies, right? Trying to get this done so that we can get in behind the enemies, maybe swoop into their cap, disrupt them a little here. Same time, you can see on the minimap that my team does kind of look like it is heading up there into the north, but if we look closely, we can see that some ships are actually already in a turn and heading over to the southwest. So this is great because we will have some support, so that's fantastic. You know, we should be fine here. The biggest concern, at least for me anyway, in the Dunkerque is the aircraft carrier. If I get focused down with the aircraft carrier, or by the aircraft carrier player, right, it's more or less going to be it for me. The other thing are the destroyers. I don't want to find myself alone against, you know, a single destroyer, because that destroyer will most likely kill me. On the Dunkerque captain itself, now, I didn't exactly know what to take for the 4th tier captain ability on the Dunkerque. I did take advanced firing training. I went for that. It increases the range of my secondaries as well as the range of my AA, so I figured, what the hell, may as well give it a shot. And it is kind of working out. I mean, I do notice the AA is at least engaging at a little further distance out, and so are my secondary batteries, which is nice, I suppose. Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure, not 100% sure how I feel about it, but still, it's on there, and it is working, generally. Of course, though, the nice thing here on the Dunkerque that we do have is the maneuverability. You can see that I do have 2 enemy Dunkerques actually in my sights off in the distance, amongst some other ships too. We have the Mogami over there. I actually fear the Mogami a whole lot more than I fear those Dunkerques, because the Mogami can set me on fire, and that can keep me on fire. The Dunkerque has an unholy ability to catch on fire in the rain. It's crazy. Just like, you know, you get brushed with an HE cell and you're going to catch on fire. So you really do want to watch out for this here. Anyway, Dunkerque off in the distance is showing a broadside, so I'm going to take advantage of this, hopefully try and do a bit of damage, because the Dunkerque, as you may know, doesn't really have that much armor on the side of her. So if you do catch a Dunkerque in a broadside, and you have some heavy caliber weapons, you're probably going to do some pretty good damage. I didn't do a whole lot of damage there, a few over penetrations as you saw, so that's not so great, but we have the other enemy Dunkerque that does look like he's in a turn here, not focused on me necessarily. Here's some shots coming in from the other Dunkerque who missed, which is great, but this Dunkerque, we're going to try and get shots away. Dunkerque is firing HE at me. HE does do a bit of damage, as you can see, right? That did some significant damage and obviously set me on fire, but luckily I'm able to repair that. My shots went into the Dunkerque, didn't do that much. And this is what I do find on the guns with the Dunkerque. I basically only fire armor piercing most times, but you know, I may not be getting tens of thousands of, you know, doing tens of thousands damage in every salvo, but I am going to be doing tens of thousands of damage, you know, every few salvos, which does really work out quite nicely in terms of, you know, getting citadels, because you can really get a lot of citadels. We're going to see a few ships here that are unfortunate enough to get citadeled by the Dunkerque, and the damage, you know, that quickly racks up here as well. Don't have to worry about that enemy Dunkirk. We managed to take her down. We do have an enemy North Carolina off in the distance. This player is in a full reverse, basically, just firing away at us. And in fact, the North Carolina is firing high explosive at us. I was a little confused as to why the player would be firing high explosive, especially at me, because, you know, with armor piercing, that North Carolina can basically pen me from any angle and really do a bunch of damage. But, you know, whatever, if he wants to fire a high explosive at me, that's cool too. Fine. You know, I accept it. Even with the armor piercing too, you know, you have a higher chance of actually knocking out one of my turrets. And the Dunkirk only has 2 turrets, so if, you know, knock one of those out, that's a pretty big deal. But whatever, I guess high explosive, you can see I'm burning. Anyway, taking a look around, I mean, I am putting some shots off into the North Carolina as I've got them, but we do see some enemy ships coming around the island here, right? We've got this enemy Mogami, we notice an enemy Dunkirk as well, but the enemy Dunkirk is taking some damage, so she's going to be going down. We don't really have to worry about her anymore, so fantastic. If I can take down the enemy Mogami, I'm going to. Like if I have any good clean shots on her, because that's really where the Dunkirk is going to excel at taking down your cruisers. However, with this annoying North Carolina over here, I do kind of want to do something about the player. At least, you know, get the player going forward again or something. Make the player realize that what he's doing is, you know, a fairly bad idea. I just haven't been able to really get any good shots in. I, you know, did a bit of damage there in the last salvo, but whatever. Enemy Mogami is now, you know, firing in on me, so this is a pretty big concern. So it's, you know, good time for me to just sort of duck out of the situation, get in behind some of my allies here, break contact, and hopefully put out the fire and repair a little. We have some shots that went out for the enemy North Carolina. Hopefully those are going to prove fruitful. Again, right, not so much damage, but still, we're getting some damage here on the North Carolina. Things are happening, we'll say. In the meantime, the allies that we have, you know, they have basically came down here to the southwest with us as well. But they are putting up their own little fight here, right? Their own little pitched battles against the enemy and doing a fairly decent job. You can see that or you may have noticed that there was an enemy destroyer near our base, so that's a bit of a concern as well. But we're still in a good position to be able to defend the base. As long as we can, you know, win these firefights, push back the enemy some more, we'll you know, should be able to hang on to this here. Shouldn't go too badly at all. Managed to get myself out of range. Right, we put out the fire, got some repair going on here, so this is great. So we're going to get ready to just engage once again. And this is really, you know, speaks into the speed, the whole speed aspect of the ship. When you have the speed and maneuverability to do these sorts of maneuvers, it really does pay off, because you can basically just get out of the fray, you know, give yourself a few seconds to repair and, you know, put out any fires or flooding if you can, and then really just get yourself back into the battle. And the nice thing, of course, again about the Dunkirk with the placement of the turrets is I can just sail straight into battle. Basically, I get to decide what range I want to engage the enemy at, as opposed to, you know, trying to determine, you know, how close or how far do I want to be before I actually turn or flare my ship to get the rest of my turrets onto target. There we go. Managed to finally get a citadel hit on the old enemy North Carolina, so fantastic. We have the enemy Mogami over there as well. You can see the enemies, the North Carolina and the Mogami, have steadily been pushing back, right? The North Carolina, oh my god, it's a great battleship at tier 8, great battleship, but to just drive in reverse the entire time, or sail in reverse the entire time, I don't know if that's necessarily the best use of this battleship. Anyway, we get another citadel hit on the enemy Mogami there, so that's not too bad. You can see that the enemy North Carolina has been taken down by one of our destroyers, so fantastic. We don't need to worry about this player anymore. Warhawk and Jolly are all over that enemy Mogami, so I'm going to let them take over there. You can see I have an enemy destroyer off in the distance here, and if this player drives in a straight line, those shots should be pretty good. Well, he turned out at the last minute, but still I managed to hit the player with 2 shots, 2 over penetrations, but did some damage, so decent, not too bad. What we're going to try and do here is we're going to try and, you know, get ourselves into the enemy base. At least that's my plan at this point in time, right? If we again look at the minimap, there still is the enemy destroyer down there in our base, right? We can see the player down there. There's also an allied battleship to deal with the player, so not an ideal situation. So I do need to keep an eye eye on our base here just to make sure that we don't actually end up losing it. We've got a few more shots going into the enemy Mogami. We managed to do a bit of damage there, nothing too significant, however, and we do still have enemy destroyers at play, right? We basically know where both of them are. I've got one destroyer off my port bow here, and then I've got another destroyer in our base right now that, you know, the enemy destroyer in our base is under attack from some allied ships, so hopefully things down there are going to work out decently. A lot of the enemy ships, I know that we've sunk 4 enemy battleships, but you know, the enemy still does have a number of ships at this point in time. A lot of cruisers, one more battleship remaining, but the cruisers are pretty deadly here as well, because you know, if they do stay at range, like the Bidyani that they have here as well, you know, the Mogami, if the Mogami were to stay alive, they could do a whole lot of damage to me anyway, quickly. And if they did single out our battleships, you know, they would be able to take us down relatively easily. Especially right now, you can see I'm in a fairly weak position, right? I'm fairly out in the open at this point in time. It'd be easy enough to take down. You can see there are some enemies who are, you know, recognizing this and, you know, firing in on me as well. But I haven't been taking too much damage as of yet, and I really do want to get myself into the base, because we do have an enemy destroyer in the base, capping it right now, right? We lost our friendly battleship who was down there, so I want to get into our base here and do something about this enemy destroyer. Now, luckily for us, you can see friendly aircraft carrier is all over this enemy destroyer, right? We've got torpedo bombers on the way. Hopefully they're going to deal with the enemy destroyer. Then I wouldn't even have to go in there. I could just sort of turn around, maybe head towards the north a little, see what happens up there. So enemy destroyer off in the distance. I launched some shots off, just, you know, might hit them, or might hit them, who knows. Enemy destroyer, you can see, manages to dodge one way of the torpedoes, but not the other, and a friendly aircraft carrier takes a player down, so fantastic. Don't have to worry about the base, for now anyway. In the meantime, Warhawk and Jolly are continuing their push up there on the west side of the map, slowly closing in on the enemy base, which is great. We can see some torpedoes coming in, passing behind me on the port side. Those are probably from the last remaining enemy destroyers. I don't really have to worry about them too much as long as I maneuver around, right? And don't sail in a straight line. This is not good. We have an enemy New Mexico off in the distance. Now, the New Mexico, you know, she's a great battleship at tier 4, but I do find the New Mexico relatively easy to do, you know, start racking up a lot of damage on in this Dunkirk. Unfortunately for me, I do have to deal with the enemy destroyer over here. There's no way that I can let the enemy destroyer be spotted and not do something about it. Luckily, again, the Dunkirk plays into this and has a great turret traverse and reload, so that I was able to get a few more shots into that enemy destroyer. I know, obviously, I didn't kill him, and obviously those shots wouldn't have amounted to a whole lot, but destroyers don't have a whole lot of hit points to begin with, so any damage I will take. Maneuvering again, because I have no idea where the destroyer is on the reload of the torpedoes, and I really don't want to have to eat any of those torpedoes, and keeping in mind that I do still have the enemy New Mexico behind me. You know, if the New Mexico catches me in a turn, those guns in the New Mexico will devastate me, just devastate me. The Colorado too, it's something else when it happens, but as long as I'm aware of where the player is and try to time my turns accordingly, I might get away with it as well. I have the maneuverability and the speed playing to my advantage here, so you know, maybe that might throw the aim of these players off. That's the hope anyway, and it's what I can keep telling myself. Shots are on the way for the enemy New Mexico. You can see they land about 10,000 damage there, so that's not too bad at all. You can see what I mean about, you know, racking up the damage here on the enemy New Mexicos and the Colorados really quickly in this ship. They just seem to be very susceptible to the guns. It's quite great. So there we go. We managed to dodge the torpedoes from the enemy destroyer. We'll probably have another 10 seconds, we'll say conservatively, before we have to worry about another incoming strike. But this doesn't mean that we you know, have any excuse to stop maneuvering. We need to still assume that the enemy destroyer, you know, is launching torpedoes at us right now. So always changing course. I'm not too big on the whole changing speed thing, because, you know, your speed does change when you're in a turn and whatnot, so that throws off the aim. I'm just talking about, you know, dodging torpedoes, dodging potential torpedoes from an incoming enemy destroyer, right? that sort of changing speed, not, you know, going behind islands and making use of the cover. That's actually quite useful. We have an enemy hipper off in the distance. We have some shots going out into the enemy hipper. Hopefully those will prove fruitful. There we go. Siddle hit on the hipper, and the hipper is down. A little ironic. I mean, the Dunkerque wasn't designed to take out the hipper class cruisers, but she was designed to take out the Deutschland class cruisers, which were the predecessors to the hipper. So a little vindication there for the French Navy, maybe. But we don't, you know, one less enemy ship to worry about anyway. So not too shabby, but we did notice enemy Atlanta moving down here towards our base. So I do kind of want to get down here into the base and help defend, right? Because we don't have any allied ships down here. This enemy New Mexico as well could easily get into our base and, you know, start capping that. So we have to be aware of this as well. Now, Warhawk is still on the warpath up there towards the enemy base, so fantastic. We can count on him to get in there and start capping it. In the meantime, Jolly has turned around, and he is coming down here into our base as well to help in the defense of the base. So fantastic. We should be able to pull this off. Even though we also do have a pretty healthy ship advantage, you know, that never hurts. But still, anyone's game to lose at this point in time. So we don't spot any of the enemy ships at this time, but we do know relatively where they are, right? We knew that the Atlanta and the New Mexico are relatively over here, and in fact there's the New Mexico once again. New Mexico fired, so popped into sight. An excellent opportunity for me to turn into the enemy New Mexico. This is really going to limit the amount of shots that are actually going to land on me and the damage that the enemy New Mexico is going to be able to do to me. There's another 7k salvo, so that's not too bad at all. And you can see our base is still not contested, so the Atlanta is not in our base as of yet, so that is great. Means, you know, I don't have to go all out into the base. I can kind of just skirt the side of it. Hopefully even just, you know, keeping the enemies totally out of the base altogether, not even having to worry about that. That would be great as well. We do have a pretty healthy lead in points overall, but you never really want to leave anything to chance. You know, RNG can be a real pain in the butt sometimes, we'll say. Real pain in the butt sometimes. Anyway, just waiting for the enemy New Mexico to come out from behind the island here. We'll see what sort of shots we have. Hopefully the player is still sailing in a straight line. Basically the player sailed in a straight line the whole time here, so yeah, straight line once again. Excellent. Put out some more shots into the enemy New Mexico. Hopefully we'll rack up a bit more damage here. Another 7k salvo, so that's not too bad at all. And you can see that how quickly the health on the New Mexico is going down and how quickly my damage is going up in the old Dunkerque. Enemy Atlanta pops up. This is immediately the target I'm going to start focusing on. The enemy Atlanta is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. I mean, you know, anyone who has an Atlanta knows just the sheer firepower, the amount of shells that this thing can put down range in, you know, a short amount of time is really astounding. So then Atlanta, you know, can set me on fire and multiple times in very short period of time, and I will potentially just burn down. So I really want to avoid this. Don't really want to burn down too hard and get the enemy Atlanta gone. Another thing we need to remember about the Atlanta as well, torpedoes. She does have torpedoes. I think it's 5.5 kilometers on them. So I'm going to have to stay, you know, that far away as well. I don't want to get around with those. So there we go, about 6,400 damage in that salvo, so that's not too bad. I also got myself a Knights Confederate medal, so fantastic. Didn't finish off the Atlanta though, sadly. Jolly shots just went in there as well and didn't finish off the Atlanta either, so we were both hoping to be able to take the player down. I just need to get one more salvo off and I should be able to take out the Atlanta, hopefully anyway. And you can see as well, I mean, the damage that the Atlanta is doing to me, right? It's not a whole lot per salvo, but it's adding up over time and quickly as well, so glad to get the Atlanta gone. So there we go. All enemy ships are gone except the enemy aircraft carrier, and we can in fact see the enemy Independence over here. So not too bad of a game, right? We still have Warhawk in the enemy base, capping that out right now, which is great. We're going to be able to get that done. Hopefully we might even be able to kill this enemy Independence. Enemy Independence isn't moving at all, which would be a perfect shot to get some armor piercing shells into there. Hopefully get a few citadels. Battle ends, but whatever. Victory is still ours, and we played a pretty damn decent game. And the team, you know, again, the team was on the ball on this one too. I mean, you're always going to have those who die and whatnot. Not to say, you know, they didn't play a good game either. But we did a pretty great job. You can see, for the most part, we're going up there to the north, but did eventually come down into the center and the southeast where, our division was, and really helped out in taking down a lot of enemy ships, which was, pretty damn decent. Overall results, not too bad at all. I think it was just shy of 100,000 credits. Got the Confederate Dreadnought as well. Lots of credits as well to walk away with, which is fantastic. Need those credits because we do know that British cruisers are coming soon. And in case you weren't, paying attention to World Warship news and whatnot, they have announced a new branch to the Japanese destroyer line. So that is going to be interesting as well. Can't wait for more new content to come along. It is always exciting. Anyway, that is today's video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to leave any comments you have for me in the video comment section below. Love reading those and responding back to them. Remember to hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.